Okay, we're ready.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, in view of the time and people that have taken the time to come down, we do not need a quorum to start our meeting. There is no action being proposed tonight. You are free to start at your convenience. All right.
Thank you for attending. I'd like to call to order the Spokane County Plan Commission. Today is July the 16th, 4:30 p.m. Thank you all for being here. Also online, there's some folks maybe watching from afar. The public may participate in person or remotely by utilizing our web link and telephone conference link, *9 to raise your hand, *6 to speak. Individuals are limited to 1 3-minute comment period for any item. Please keep your comments specific to the current agenda item. Chat is not supported. We do not have a quorum.
And Mr. Chairman, a point that you have discretion on this, but with the number of people that have signed up, I would suggest we start with a 2-minute limit and go from there.
Yes, thank you for that, Scott. We have a nice grouping of folks who want to speak, and we don't want to let them, we want them to be heard today, so that's why we're doing this. Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, I am present online, so I think we do have a quorum.
We do, thank you. Okay.
I intended to be in person, but I'm battling a cold and didn't want to share with y'all.
Well, that's very nice of you. Thank you, Logan. Glad to have you with us. Thank you. So we do have a quorum. Very good. You can introduce her. Okay, so we will, first order of business is to introduce ourselves. We'll start with Logan. You can go first since you're online.
Hey, good evening, y'all. Logan Camporiali.
Good evening, Clyde Hossey, Pete Rayner.
Stephen Poll, your chair. The first order of business, as always, the members of the public may comment on any item that is not on this current agenda, which is published. So if, pardon me? Julia,
I neglected to fill out a yellow slip for general comments. Can I
thought you did.
speak or not? 2 minutes? Not on the critical area, but it's actually.
Yeah, I understand. Let me just get through the script here.
Oh, excuse me.
And then I'll call for the questions. So the first order of business is for members of the public may comment on any item that is not on the current agenda. And the current agenda is published critical areas ordinance hearing, draft environmental impact statement hearing. Okay, is there anyone who would like to address the commission for items that are not on this agenda? And there's some slips filled out here, and as best as I can tell, I'm trying to sift through these things. I've got 3. Julie, you said you wanted to be part of this also, or how does that work?
Yes, I neglected to fill out a second yellow slip for the open.
Were you on the critical area?
Yes,
Sorry,
I'll
you
read
did
it
fill out
here.
for that. I don't even have that. Did you fill it out?
This is for a separate,
Oh, yeah, here.
Subject.
I got it. Okay.
okay.
All right, my bad. Got it. Here we go. Well, I think we should start. Is it Dana Leroy? Yeah. Danny, you were the very first person to arrive with me at 4 o'clock, so we're gonna let you go first. You have the floor. We're gonna do 2 minutes. We've got an awful lot to get through here this evening, so we want to hear from you.
Well, thank you very much,
you.
Mr. Chair and the commissioners. My name is Dana Leroy. I'm with Habitat for Humanity Spokane, and we are an affordable home ownership developer. And today I'm making a general comment. I'm introducing this letter to you all. You should have it in front of you, dated July 3rd. I've also sent this to the planning department and the county commissioners, as well as the county planning commission. And this is a comment letter on the urban zoning updates, which a few months ago I was here making comment on as well. And this is an more organized comment letter on specific suggestions, changes to the urban zoning code update draft that had been published by the Spokane County Plan Department. It is signed on by a really broad coalition of community members ranging from affordable housing providers such as ourselves, Habitat, the Spokane Low Income Housing Consortium, to the business community such as Spokane Realtors, Spokane Home Builders, to the nonprofit and advocacy community, FutureWise, Spokane Alliance, A Better Way LLC, and many other practitioners and folks in the development community. And the general gist of what we're asking for is making sure that the NR1 zone in the proposed zoning updates more closely aligns with the middle housing standards that the state has mandated for local city jurisdictions, and seeing as all the UGAs butt up against jurisdictions that have to adopt these development standards, having sort of making sure that Spokane County has development standards that fit well with the jurisdictions that they are neighboring with are really important from a congruency way and from a joint planning perspective. Additionally, from an affordable housing provider perspective, having flexibility when doing infill development, which more and more due to the UGA is what we're having to do as affordable housing dividers, having flexibility when we're doing site planning with our developments is really crucial. And these proposed changes, which you can find is sort of attached on the very back pages where the really specific changes are. These proposed changes allow for flexibility for developers. So thank you so much, and we hope to that these are considered.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question or two, please? It is Michael.
Dana.
Oh, Dan.
Michael's my father. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you speaking in behalf of all of these different association groups?
Yes, that's a good.
And I was trying to understand, is there something saying that they agree with what I mean, I'm just trying to understand, or is this just you?
No. So yes, I'm presenting this letter on behalf of all the signatories. There you're seeing on the page. And
How are they connected?
how do they
Other
connect?
than that, it's just a group of people,
Yeah, it's a group. So essentially,
group association.
yeah,
Okay.
an association. It's we all kind of found in common that this was a element of concern, and we wanted to offer as a group this comment. That makes sense.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Melissa, you want to introduce yourself? Thank you.
What am I here? There you go.
Melissa Wickstruck.
All right, thanks for being with us. Logan is online, so we have 5 commissioners. That's very good. The next person should be Rick Richard. He wants to talk about building lot shortages. Is that correct? Come right up. Come right up. Go right over here. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Rick Richard, and my address 4214 East 15th Avenue, Spokane. I'm a realtor of 38 years in Spokane, and I've been following all the articles about the give and take of whether to expand, where to expand, and I keep hearing the theory that we have enough infill lots. And that's not what I'm hearing in my industry from builders, from homeowners. I have a parcel that's under consideration to be brought in, along with my friend Terry Neal, along with a parcel that George Paris has adjoining us. And between the three of us, George has 127 lots, and Terry and I have 31. And sewers in the vicinity close enough, it'll be a part of George's project. And I guess my main comment when I hear the talk about, well, we have enough infill lots, I don't know any builders with cost and scale to spread across everything, permits, utilities, that are wanting single lots to develop. When you get 127 and 31 lots together, that's a great economy of scale. We already have interested buyers on our parcels. George Paris is ready to go with his parcel. And I guess I don't know where this is coming from, what's driving this. We have enough infill lots. I don't see that working for new construction. Am I reading and hearing things correctly? Is that a valid argument? Oh, anyway, that's all I got, I guess.
Thank you, Rick.
Thanks. Thank you, Rick.
did you want to? Oh, chime in on any of that? Seems like there's a question.
Mr. Chair, I'm happy to. I also want to be respectful that a lot of people are waiting to speak. Their chance is to let you know what they're thinking. We record these, we take notes, and we will respond to their comments as we do other comments so that you have a knowledge of that. But as a quick reminder for everybody, the Growth Management Act, which is state law outside of the county's control, mandates that we, the planning department and the county, do everything we can to absorb growth within our current boundaries before we expand our urban growth area. That said, we're also working with market forces to say not everything that wants to be built here can be built inside the existing urban growth area. So we're balancing the state mandates with the market forces that exist here to try to provide a reasonable accommodation of new land for development in the future, as well as supply some ability for infill development. That's a large part of what we're going to talk about in the EIS later. So some of this is really going to come in the next hour or so. But to be clear, what we're driving for the Growth Management Act is a state law mandate that says you should try to absorb your growth within your boundaries before you expand your limits. And so we have that constraint, and we're working with that to also reflect our historic development patterns, which, as many people in this room would imagine, are single-family detached homes at 4.5 units an acre. So that's a built-in tension in the state law.
Okay, thank you. Joshua Kozlov. Welcome.
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Joshua Kozlov. I'm a lifelong Spokane resident, currently in Lincoln Heights, and a nursing student at WSU. I'm here representing myself, my bachelor at nursing peers, and many of your constituents who are deeply concerned about the proposal for AI data centers in our county. While I appreciate the commission's hard work in keeping Spokane moving forward, planning for massive AI data centers is a dangerous misstep. Your communication has been open about the topic, but people want more clear-cut answers. Unlike traditional industries, data centers bring very few long-term local jobs. It's reported that these companies often outsource local construction instead of just local people, and it requires very little maintenance and upkeep in exchange for negligible local economic gain. Our community is being asked to pay a heavy price. And as a future healthcare professional, I want to bring light to these, like severe respiratory health issues, noise pollution, light pollution. Furthermore, these facilities demand massive amounts of electricity, millions of gallons of water from our aquifer, and we're already in a severe drought. We have been for several years. And what does the city and population gain? Better trained AI for a company that isn't even based in our city and gives no guarantee that this AI training will benefit any of us. Might not even go to good companies, could go to surveillance companies if counted. And this massive strain on our grid directly impacts our wallets. Just last month, Attorney General Nick Brown denied Avista's rate hike request, saying a lot of their pay goes into things like additional CEO pay, marketing, lobbying efforts. And the Attorney General argued that by adjusting financial assumptions, they can save several hundred of millions and still remain profitable. So I don't think Avista has the population's best interest in mind. In addition, also in June, they were trying to get an issuance for $800 million. But you don't see that this would just count funding from universities and other institutions that we are paying for with our tax dollars.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions for Joshua?
Again, Mr. Chair, quick clarification that for those that are data centers have certainly been in the news since the Vista article a week or so ago, a few weeks ago. But I can tell you there are no applications, there are no formal inquiries about data center permits in Spokane County at this time.
Thank you for that. Julie, we're going to have you come forward because you wanted to speak on something that is not on our general agenda today. So please come forward.
And then I have 3 people on.
Oh, that one. Is that right? She filled out one, but she wants. to
Yeah, it's for something else. Yep.
Yeah,
And then I have
that's fine.
three. I have three people online also.
Oh, okay, great, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Good afternoon, Julia McHugh, Palisades Neighborhood, West Plains. I just want to remind you, as we launch into what seems to be the final 1/8 of this planning process, that we will be living with for 20 years, both the critical areas ordinance and the environmental impact statement system. There are a number of documents and a number of topics that have not yet been covered fully or at all. I just want to name them to give you a heads up that we collectively have incomplete information going forward, and these are serious omissions. There were to be 7 different policy discussions regarding what we're discussing today. There is absolutely no mention about the S3R3 Solutions, which controls 9,000 acres on the West Plains. There is no discussion really about existing environmental threats, including the Latah Fault and the fault that runs along the base of the North Foothills Drive. These are geologic faults. We did have an earthquake in about 2002. We have not yet addressed the SEPA checklist, which is an extremely flawed format that the jurisdictions can pick and choose which questions to ask, and therefore questions that applicants can respond to or not respond to. We have not discussed the Fairchild Air Force Base PFAS study expansion. They're expanding because they're finding more PFAS, much closer to actually reaching to the Spokane River. We really haven't looked at the regulation of mines and landfills, which I know is a DNR task, but those do affect the aquifers. We haven't looked at wastewater discharge. There's over 2.5 million gallons a day by Airway Heights, Cheney, and Medical Lake. That's a day of wastewater going into the basalt aquifer on the West Plains. There's also, I mentioned before, the public benefit rating system for land use proposals, the land capacity analysis, the West Plains Chemical Action Plan. None of this is included in what we're deciding on. Thank you.
Thank you. Online, please.
So the first person would be Jean Cohen.
Jean Cohen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Open the mic up, Richard. This is for things that are on this.
I have raised hands.
Jean, are you on? Hello?
I've asked him.
Is he on? Can you unmute him?
I have unmuted him. I've asked him to unmute. Okay, so until we hear from him, we'll move on to the next person.
Sure.
Okay. That would be Kirsten.
Kirsten, close.
Kristen, thank you.
Go ahead.
Thanks for trying. It's a tough one. Thank you for this time to speak. My name is Kirsten Angel, and I represent myself and Spokane Urban Nature, or SUN. I appreciate you reminding us of the state mandates that we're working within. I represent SUN, and we're a Spokane-based nonprofit. There's a lot about protecting our remaining natural assets. We urge you to select alternative 1, as alternative 2 is just too environmentally costly. We are blessed with the Little Spokane River and her floodplain ecosystem. It's quite healthy, and we'd like for you to avoid alternative 2, which would be devastating to this natural area whose ecosystem is a dynamic one. It's very important to our quality of life here. And this ecosystem actually offers us countless co-benefits: healthy soils, cooling air, trees, biodiversity. There are so many reasons to protect it and never consider squandering it as it would be if alternative 2 is chosen. Spokane County is getting more organized around advocating for our natural lands, and we vote. We tend to vote. So please, this is a dynamic floodplain. We should not build there, period. It's also too costly environmentally. Please choose alternative 1 And with regards to the gentleman's testimony earlier, where there's not enough lots, according to some of the people he's around, the market forces will always push for more. And that's why we have elected officials and checks and balances in place who know the bigger picture and can advocate. And then we have the state mandate that actually requires us to meet certain standards. So I just appreciate your leadership. Thank you for this time to speak, and please choose alternative 1.
Thank you very much.
And then we have David Toyer.
Say again,
David Toyer.
David, are you on?
Yeah, I'm here. Is this the time to speak for the DEIS public hearing?
We were going to wait until our formal presentation and take comments.
Perfect. That's what I'm here for, is to comment on that. So if you want me to hold on for a bit, I can.
Also, we can amalgamate all these under one topic matter.
What was that?
Would you mind holding off until we get to that portion?
Not at all.
Okay, thank you so much for your indulgence. I appreciate that.
No worries. Thank you.
Yeah, stay with us. Anyone else?
No.
Did I address anybody in the audience who wanted to speak that's not on this agenda?
Um,
Oh, yeah, Gene, let's see if Gene can be patched in. He has hand up, right?
He did. His hand is no longer raised. So
Oh, it's not.
correct.
Well, we'll talk to him if he,
Yeah.
I'll make allowance for it. That's not.
Okay.
Scott, I'd like to turn on, yeah.
I was hoping to speak, but may I ask a question?
What's the topic?
About the data centers. Before I.
The data center?
Is it true, sir, what you said that at this time there was no proposals for a data center in Spokane?
That's correct.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Yeah, I think it was just a question, you Scott. What was the question, nature of the question?
Are there any applications for data center permits in Spokane County? And the answer is no, there are no applications.
Does that answer your question? Okay, great. Thanks. We're fairly interactive here, so it's all good. Thank you. Scott, can I turn it over to you if I missed anybody else?
Of course.
Talk about critical areas ordinance, and we've got people that want to talk about that, and then the DEIS.
Of course, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The CAO has been before you several times. We have only a couple of brief summary slides to show up, just kind of a reminder and for our audience on where we've been. This has been in progress for more than 2 years with technical advisory groups and others from the side. As Ms. McHugh notes, there are many pieces to this, and some of which are coming together, some of which are coming together later than we'd anticipated, but we're still working toward inclusion as best we can. So you've seen this before, most recently this year, April 9th, April 30th, May 28th. The Board of County Commissioners had a workshop on the 18th. We will be receiving comments through today. You received the matrix of comments and responses from our staff and consulting team. We do have Douglas Yormak from Facet online for other questions and clarifications for you as we move on today. And briefly, where we're going are these issues and these topics in the CAO. And as a kind of again, a summary, there are 2 separate items on today's agenda. The CAO is a critical areas ordinance. It is an implementing tool from the comprehensive plan and from other things. It is as the comprehensive plan sets goals and policies, excuse me, the CAO is an ordinance that implements them like a zoning ordinance. So it's different from the plan itself. All of that said, though, this work to amend the ordinance to bring it up to date is providing enormous guidance to the plan for where we should grow, how we should grow, and how we need to protect our resources in certain areas. For example, and then I will stop and let this go over, but Terry Horn, who's been a frequent visitor at our things, and she and I have met a couple of times. She most recently provided another list of resources that are useful in understanding our critical areas from past studies and other things. We have gathered those resources. We have examined them at least briefly. Some of them are as we always say, value by the pound, meaning they're, 500-page documents. But all of those are going to be incorporated into this comprehensive plan in the appendix. So those will be referred to in plan evaluations. Now, our successors in planning will be using those resources directly in the comprehensive plan. They will not have to look for them and search for them elsewhere. So we're grateful to our citizens for bringing some of that information to us, and we're incorporating it into the plan for our future work. That said, Mr. Chair, we are happy to step aside and let others on the public provide some additional comments for you on the critical areas ordinance.
Thank you, Scott. Can we hear from Rod Price, please?
Sure.
Welcome, Rod.
Hey, Rod. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Rod Price. I live and work in Spokane and Spokane County. Tonight, I'm here representing Pattern Energy, which is formerly known by this commission as Cordelio Power. We've spoken here before on the wind ordinance. So we submitted comments earlier today via email to Scott Chesney. And just a couple of comments. First, we do welcome the opportunity to continue engaging with county staff and the planning commission and to provide additional technical feedback as the CAO moves forward. We appreciate all of the thought, the work and research that has gone into this so far. And we would just encourage the county to consider the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife's September 30th, 2025 guidelines they published for utility scale solar and onshore wind energy development as an important source of guidance while maintaining a balanced, practical, and site-specific approach in the final ordinance. And again, we look forward to engaging with the county on this issue moving forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we hear from Terry next? Terry Horn?
Terry.
Hello.
I did not speak of your third person.
Oh, no, you're fine, Scott. Thank you, sir. Hello, Commissioner. My name's Terry Horn. Looks like my name's come up a few times today.
Welcome, Terry.
Thank you, Commissioner. You received a letter from me on July 10th, 2026 regarding my concerns with Scott, softly spoke on. One of the issues I'm seeing right now is Kelly versus Washington 302 US 1. At the end of the day, we have a ordinance of comprehensive storm water plan from 2005 that set out a financial structure for each of the high-risk drainage areas. However, those funds were not spent in the proper basins. When we look at Kelly versus Washington, one of the things we look at is the fact that it clearly states a statute which has remained unenforced for a long period does not become inoperative for that reason. In layman's terms, the comprehensive plan, that comprehensive stormwater management plan from 2005 that laid out the financial structure for the high-risk drainage areas, that comprehensive plan will not become invalid simply because the local government neglected to enforce it for years. So one of the things we'd really like to look at is this financial structure, because all of those funds, ERUs or in our taxes, it says storm res principles. And each of us got a different amount because of the impervious nature. They knew that retention ponds were not a suitable design for stormwater in these high-risk drainage areas. However, that's all you see in these high-risk drainage areas. Those funds were meant to be only placed for the West Plains or North Spokane and Glen Rose. Let's try and get us back into some type of system, please. We need to look at that.
Thank
Right?
Anybody online?
No, not at this moment.
Julia, you have a card up here, your turn. Critical areas ordinance.
Julia McHugh, Palisades neighborhood, living on a contaminated well. I am especially interested in the critical areas ordinance and the rightness that we need to build into it. Right now, if Miss Rona will flash my, and don't take this off my time, please. This is an image I asked her to try and display. This shows two parcels that the county commission just this week, I believe, approved that the airport could purchase. It's on South Hayford Road, and then there's another one south. The airport is wanting to buy farms, farmsteads, old houses, old barns in two different places to the tune of many thousand, hundreds of thousands, 370,000 and 322,000 on old dilapidated homes. Why does the airport want to build it? Because they have contaminated water. That is just to echo what I said earlier about Fairchild study going further. And in this case, the airport is going further with their purchasing of property so they can control it and perhaps avoid contaminating other families. With this, there's a drop-down tab that is in Scout. This is the county Scout lookup. You drop it down, it shows only the Spokane Valley Rathdrum Prairie aquifer. There is no choice about West Plains, so the Scout system must very desperately need updating, which is going to be expensive. Also, we need these policy discussions that we've been promised all over the board about the critical areas ordinance. The SVR3 solutions, they control 9,000 plus these acreage, including 300 acres of wetlands that very much impact the quality of the groundwater, the quantity of the groundwater. There's no mention of this public development authority anywhere in any of the plans that I've seen. Perhaps they're in the updates, but we have not been privy to any of these updates or additional drafts. A big problem. Also, this public benefits rating system, which helps assess whether or not this application is for the public benefit or not. That is never used. I earlier said that there's wastewater discharge. There's 2.5 million gallons per day of our wastewater from Cheney, Medical Lake, and Airway Heights. That is not mentioned. The critical areas ordinance is all about, in part, the West Plains, the critical areas. That map is not updated. The susceptibility map is not updated. The paleo channels out there, which are extremely susceptible, are not updated. So we are flying blind here, folks. And that is not what taxpayers pay for. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McHugh. Want to be recognized now?
Mr. Chairman, sure, thank you. Ms. McHugh has pointed out one thing that we have talked about and committed, and that's a further discussion of some of those missing policy issues that were identified in the part of the CAO organization. Staff and consultants have gone through those and started to produce essentially discussion points for those, and we intend to convene a group to do that, including a group from the public that will include citizens that are interested in talking about that as a public policy. As an aside, one of the things we'll be asking you when the folks are done talking tonight, and you've had a chance to deliberate a little bit, ask any questions. Again, our staff is online. We're going to ask you to keep this public hearing and keep the record open so we can continue those discussions on those missing policy elements and bring those back later in the fall when we start wrapping up the overall comprehensive plan. So this is a public hearing for its purpose, but we're also going to ask that we keep it going until we can make more progress on this. As we said, this has been late in the game to move this along. We've discovered a lot of pieces, and we want to address as much of that as we can moving forward, even though it's less convenient than we'd hoped.
Thank you, Scott. Anybody online?
No.
Critical area ordinances? Did I miss anybody in the audience? My yellow slips are expired I don't have any more, but
That's you.
yes.
Scott, Scott, do we have a time frame that we have to meet in the hearing of all these items? Could you can almost say, we gotta be able to move forward is what I'm trying to point out.
Oh, I totally understand. The deadline that is important is the statutory deadline for the comprehensive plan update. That is due by the end of 2026. The CAO does not have a deadline.
Okay.
We've wrapped it into the comprehensive plan process because it makes sense to be there. But we're not under any pressure to wrap it up early. We had hoped to be able to close that effort earlier, but as we've pointed out, some of these flaws are worth hanging on and trying to examine a little bit further. Ideally, we would look at this for the rest of July, bring a report back to you on July 30th, and perhaps by August, this would be ready to be recommended from you to the Board of County Commissioners, at which time we would package it up. The intent would be to bring it along with the comprehensive plan as a single package in December. But you could very easily finish your work on the CAO in the next 60 days.
Thank you. Other questions? Melissa?
Yeah, I just want to check in, Mr. Chesney, this is Melissa. You do have, I mean, once the Board of County Commissioners, if they do approve the CAO, you have a 60-day timeline that Commerce has to.
Ahead of their approval.
Yeah,
the target, our working target to start that 60-day clock is Friday, September 11th. We've got a couple weeks of cushion if we need it, but that 60 days then gets any Commerce comments back to us in time for your last public hearing in November. So we're trying to get that up front so that you have the benefit of hearing those comments from Commerce, not waiting until the board's decision itself.
kind of a tricky play, merging these things, but you guys have been doing great so far on these things. And I know that there are some comments out there from Fish and Wildlife that I saw in the matrix. There was some mention of the use of outdated materials, so I'm hoping that staff has gotten the best available science that's most current. I know that's difficult to do. There's always new things being published on the web.
It is, and the date of a report doesn't necessarily make it less current. Some do not age well, and some are fine. We have passed those comments along to our consulting team that was engaged specifically to work through that best available science. I have not yet read all of the comments myself, so I can't specifically address that. But if any agency found an outdated source, we'd certainly be trying to ameliorate that as much as we could. All of that said, there is a follow-up to the CAO specifically, and that's that as the ordinance goes forward, we have discovered, notably on the West Plains, the different aquifer system that's there. As was mentioned, it doesn't show up in a lot of our documents. We are starting to make those corrections. There will need to be technical mapping done that we did not plan for in the update itself. And so that's going to follow in 27, but we're going to highlight the need to have this research and this best available science ahead of time. There will be a number of follow-up issues that we simply did not budget time or expense for because we didn't anticipate them in the plan itself. So a lot of the mapping and the geotechnical efforts identify these shortfalls, and we will try to address those as quickly as we can afterwards.
So that will potentially result in amendments to the CAO in 27?
It could. The intention is to have the best available science in this year's amendment. Sure. But as that identifies bigger gaps that we didn't anticipate, as you might imagine, mapping an aquifer is not like mapping a forest. You can't do it with a satellite. You have to have some geotechnical work on that. Fortunately, Chad Pritchard at Eastern has done a ton of work in terms of test wells and other things. So we've got a kind of a baseline we can start with that will help us quite a lot. But we'll be looking to ecology and other agencies to say we all need to update this, and we'd like to have some funding. We'd like to have some support to make that happen. But it could very easily result in further amendments in 27 or 28.
Oh, water is tricky.
Okay. Are we gonna be in compliance with the state level for the GMA? Whereas last time we kind of fell out of compliance, and I'm just, are these actions is that a strategy of? Cause I don't want us to be in defaulting.
No, Clyde, every part of our work plan is intended for the comprehensive plan to meet its statutory deadline of December 2026. The CAO is not part of that, but we're still intending to have a 26 amendment. There's no statutory deadline and there's no compliance issue with the CAO. GMA compliance is dependent only upon a comprehensive plan update.
Right.
And that we are on target to meet our deadline by December.
Because the deadlines, they seem to be moving together, but not the same deadlines.
It's somewhat coincidental, yes.
Okay, that's what I'm getting at.
Any other comments? I missed anybody online?
No.
Scott, would you proceed with the next question hearing? GIS. Oh, before we do that, Logan, do you have anything to add before we move on here? We don't mean to ignore you.
Nope, I'm good. Appreciating the info.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The second hearing tonight is for the draft EIS. We'll have a few kind of basic information pieces up here, and then we'll have a chance to talk to you about the alternatives and how we're moving toward a preferred alternative. But you can kind of see here the purpose of this, how we use the information, some of the information and the content that is wrapped up in the EIS is here. And then based on the WAC, or the Washington Administrative Code, which are the rules by which we implement the RCWs, the statutes, these are 7 or 6 particular bullet points that are in that set of state rules that we address throughout the environmental impact statement studies. And you can see the existing conditions, proposed change, alternatives and mitigation, and then studies, unavoidable adverse impacts. So it's a fairly straightforward, but a list that requires a lot of diligence to work through. So one point that we want to make, only peripherally, and it's only to say that, you know, in the WACs, public meetings are typically not required for this, and we have chosen to, rather than go through a technical exercise, to have a number of public meetings on this, including you know, the better part of a year talking about alternatives and other parts that are working in this issue. So we're choosing to use that first bullet as the lead agency to say, yeah, public meetings are warranted and they're valuable for us to make this process happen. So the draft EIS doc is our version of looking at giving something for review, comments on that, bring back outside perspectives that were not necessarily reflected in both past documents, and the county's EIS for its last plan was done as part of the 2001 plan and updated in 2010. So it was quite a ways out of date. And then as it should, it provides new information for us as staff to then aggregate and assess and bring to you as representatives of the public for consideration and recommendation to our board. We use the 2-part process so that we produce a draft EIS and then bring that for 30 days or more comment, and then that comes back to assessing those comments and wrapping that into a final EIS, which has a preferred alternative for growth and development. So that, as you can see here, it was published June 7th. Comment period formally ended on the 11th, on July 11th. What that means is not that comments are not welcome after that. It means that we have to have some deadline to give those comments to staff and our consulting team to evaluate and bring back to you, and you have that in your packet. We will continue to take comments as long as we can. So pretty simply, here's how we go through looking at those comments, how the alternatives are there, anything new that might be proposed, certainly some corrections if they're necessary. And then key issues, amount and distribution of growth. Those are kind of the basic parts of this, and you can see the affordable housing is a state mandate, more efficient growth patterns. One of the callers mentioned a desire to adopt alternative one, which is entirely an infill alternative. That is the certainly preferred sense of the Growth Management Act, and yet that is not always the way the markets work. So we have to look at balancing those things. And then capital services and what are called levels of service are, in a sense, one of the bottom lines that come from growth. Can the county, can the government afford to support growth through roads, through public improvements, and through other pieces? We have to manage that growth so that the public investment is as fully leveraged as it can be to support that growth and not spread out with much more expensive infrastructure. So as a reminder for you, and perhaps new to some of our public, the DEIS looked at 3 alternatives, really 2 action alternatives and 1 no action alternative. And kind of the simple summary is the no action alternative is what happens if the county takes no effort, makes no effort to change its development regulations, and makes no effort to expand land available for development. How could it handle 104,000 new residents? And the reason it's no action is it doesn't work. So alternative 1 takes a look at, and the reason we've got these 2 alternatives is we call them bookends. Now they're both at edges of the development spectrum. Alternative 1 is essentially an infill-based approach, which is to say, what changes would we need to make to our zoning, development, subdivision codes to be able to absorb the county's share of that growth entirely within existing urban growth areas and existing cities, making no changes to the urban growth area boundary. Alternative 2 is sort of the other side of that. If we don't make changes to our development regulations, how much additional land would be necessary at our trending development patterns that would be needed to absorb those residents in the county and the cities? So when we get to all of that, one of the conclusions in this is a future land use map. And it is, in a sense, you can say it's the summary of the 500 or so pages behind it. But it will look at this entire list of things. It will look at the growth projections, housing unit allocations. They're made by the county and our steering committee to each of the individual jurisdictions. They're also made to those jurisdictions in a number of income bands, as they're called. So we have to plan for the provision of housing for those that make some segments of what's called the area median income, and that's from 0 to 30%, 30 to 50, and so on. The plans must specifically allocate regulations that will allow development for affordable housing in those bands. Critical area analysis, here's where this comes together. And this is where we're looking at a lot more robust alternative than the last plan had, but it's incorporating many of the things we've learned over the last 2 years. And that will also define not just growth areas that would need mitigation, but it will define areas that should probably be back in a conservation or back in a no growth area because they are environmentally sensitive. So it's a way of balancing those needs. And sometimes that critical area is, in a sense, you could say you could mitigate anything if you had enough money or time. There's a balancing act. Sometimes it is not feasible to do that, and sometimes even mitigating can damage the underlying environmental structures such as an aquifer. So this is a change that we think is pretty important. We mentioned capital facilities and then infill opportunities and adaptive reuse of structures. We've talked about that only a little bit because as you might imagine, commercial structures, commercial and industrial structures that are no longer used in their existing purpose Some can be renovated or reclaimed for residential use. Some are not suitable for that. The vast majority of those structures are within the cities. They're not really in the unincorporated county because most of the county growth is newer. And if it was industrial, it's bigger industrial facilities. Nonetheless, this is going to be a part of our economic development strategy in the overall comprehensive plan to help challenge our cities to make sure they're taking a look at this as well. Because it's simply put, two things happen. One, if you can add vitality to downtown Spokane, that's good for the county. And secondly, any place that has these facilities, has been mentioned by our public, most of the infrastructure you need is already in place. You generally can make relatively small changes in infrastructure and use those buildings. It varies, to be sure. So wanted to put up just a couple of slides to reinforce the critical area argument, because these are slides that were not in our system in the past. The slide on the left is a diagram instead, generally that orange area, and that is the stormwater flooding risk area that was identified in an earlier study. And we've incorporated that into the planning maps in our critical areas layer. So now anyone that is looking at a map and looking at land and turns on critical areas will see this and be able to know to dig further. Now, when we talk about future mapping that needs to be done, this is also a good example of that. Because as you could, I'd certainly imagine, stormwater and flooding don't pay attention to parcel lines. And when you draw a map that is based on parcel lines, you're being somewhat artificial in what those impacts are. And so in going forward, we would like to take another look at this out beyond the existing lines and try to have a better geologic based border on that than rather a geographic based border. The second map is in the EIS, and it reflects a better understanding of the West Plains aquifer system as we know it, and also for the first time in our public maps defines the paleochannels on the West Plains, and those are those kind of blue lengthy polygons that you see creeping either side of Fairchild Air Force Base, mostly north of I-90. Those are critical in the flow of groundwater on the West Plains, and you sort of ignore them at your peril because when contamination hits them, and what the paleochannel is, I'm sorry, I should tell that for folks that haven't been following us. It's a remnant of the Missoula floods of the Ice Age years, where the floods would scrape through and just scour the land as it went through, millions and millions of gallons a second of ice and water coming through. As they fill up with cobbles and rock, and so they become very permeable to water. It's not like topsoil or clay soils that water can't percolate through. When water hits one of those paleochannels, it's like an underwater or underground conduit, so it flows very quickly. And that's also at least one of the reasons that some of the pollution of the West Plains water system had gotten so bad so quickly is if you get contaminated water at the head of a paleochannel, it flows through it very, very fast. And so again, we're trying to identify this using the EIS process to move things along. And so again, another now map from the EIS itself that looks at the critical aquifer recharge areas with the paleochannels mapped on them. This is a map from our past, and you can see essentially the Spokane Valley rastrum prairie is roughly that blue high impact area. It changes a little bit. You can kind of see the purple dashed line around that. But this is one that needs to be updated for our West Plains aquifer system as well. So this is a part of the EIS that kind of summarizes the various major categories that are looked at in an EIS, from land disturbance, impervious surfaces, geologic hazard areas, and habitat encroachment. Habitat is and always has been part of our critical areas and is a big factor in how our current zoning in rural conservation lands factors into habitat migration lands. So the key takeaways from the EIS It informs the comprehensive plan in terms of policy and development standards. Environmental impacts are based on where development occurs. The best available science helps define what the levels of protection are. And then the CAO applies those to actual development on the ground. So it's a progression of what we get out of the environmental study that gets right down to, in effect, rules for development. Now, moving into the alternatives. I'm sorry, Clyde, go ahead.
No, I have a question for you, please. I always bring this up all the time, and that's the raster and prairie. But it's over the top of this aquifer that's coming our direction. Are we getting information from them of how we're dealing? Or I guess because it's upstream, it all comes downstream. Is there anything going on? I mean, I don't fully understand where raster and North Idaho is at.
We have had some early talks a year ago with our counterparts in Kootenai County. We have offered to follow them up now that we've got something more to talk about, but we don't have anything to report back to you. There was interest from Kootenai County Planning in even holding some joint meetings to discuss perhaps common development standards for development on top of the aquifer. But I can't report any direct progress on that. We're aware of it. We're also aware that Post Falls is platting thousands of lots on top of the aquifer on their side. And so it's going to, as you say, it's going to have an upstream impact on what flows in our direction.
Is the word it's coming?
Yes, our commitment is yes, we are talking with our counterparts. You might certainly imagine Idaho has different rules for planning and development than we do, fairly significantly different rules. And so there's not necessarily the same level of interest in doing that, but yet the planning director recognizes that rules notwithstanding, the aquifer is fragile. Yeah. And we should both be looking at it. And there are others, and you know this better than I do, I'm sure. There are several organizations that have existed over the years that are, from the Joint Aquifer Board to other groups that are happening here. We are working with our own water staff to update the Coordinated Water Service Plan, which is generally for Spokane County, but it talks about the various aquifer organizations as well. So there has been discussion in the past. There will be again as we work our way through this. So the alternatives are based on what you saw more than a year ago, at least initially, which was called the housing allocation model. And that is the tool that took the the OFM population forecast for Spokane County. We broke that down by jurisdictions based on existing share of the county growth as well as growth of their planning or their future growth share. That became an allocation for housing units based on persons per household, and then that was broken down by income bands. What this diagram is showing is only for the allocations that are in the unincorporated Spokane County urban growth areas. And alternative one, again, is that infill development. And this is saying that the allocation of those through that housing tool for our 20-year growth pattern is about 12,500. The capacity was about 11,500. So there's a deficit given our current rules and ability to absorb that income band in our issues. In the 80 and up, there's an allocation of 7,700 and a capacity of 14,000. So there's potentially a healthy surplus of land available for market rate housing, or at least close to market rate housing. One of the challenges that we face on a truly, I don't say global, because it's the wrong use of global, but on a broad scale, is these housing allocations based on Commerce's formulas assume that you can see here that 2/3, 5/8 of all of the growth anticipated in unincorporated Spokane County is going to be at an income of 80% of our area median income and under. That's kind of a depressing figure in one sense, because that would suggest that 2/3 of the families that are moving here are not going to be able to afford anything, or and they'll be operating at a fairly modest income rate. That has not historically been the pattern, but it is also not that far off. But it's also why we're seeing these discrepancies. Now, alternative 2, which is mostly the growth pattern, shows a much higher deficit in that lower income band. And not surprisingly, if you're talking about new land that is likely to be more expensive, there's going to be less available for the lower income bands, and a slightly smaller surplus for the market rate side of the equation. And so we want to share with you a few areas in the alternate 1 idea that are candidates for a new kind of zoning that we've talked about a couple of times, all the way back to placemaking in our 2004-2005 effort. This is on our north side, right north of the Y between Division Street and Newport Highway. You can see multi-colors in there that reflects existing zoning. So it's everything from low density residential to commercial to high density residential. This is an area that could absorb some infill because there are vacant parcels in here, and it may allow for some of that 0 to 80% capacity because it's close to transit. There are walkable services in here, so there are some opportunities to do that. This is a little further north, Wandermere area, north on Division. Again, a mix of uses in here, a lot of commercial uses. We showed you a while back how you can infill sometimes commercial parking lots with residential and still preserve the economic viability of the commercial, the retail. So this may be a candidate for some of that consideration. To the east of that a bit, Newport Highway again running diagonally through the slide. The lilac at the bottom is the Mead Works project, right off that dog leg on the highway. That's the Costco on the north off of Newport Highway. This is an area that you as a commission know very well, because there have been at least half a dozen comprehensive plan amendments in the last 3 or 4 years in here to move low density residential into medium and high density residential. So this is an area under transition. It's also planned for the next round of high capacity or high performance bus rapid transit systems that are being studied right now. In fact, right about where the legend on this map is, STA has purchased land for a station, much like the Moran station on the South Hill. So it's going to be a destination. Immediately adjacent to that on Newport Highway is 40 acres between that and Costco. Multicare bought that a year or so ago and sold 10 acres to Shriners Hospital. So that's going to be a major medical center, maybe even within the 20-year horizon of this plan. So it makes it an employment center. It makes it a walkable community. It makes it almost a village. So it's a very good place to think about higher intensity development for residential. Our other key area, as we see it, for these targets is the West Plains. And this is an area south of I-90 between Garden Springs and the Geiger interchange. The lilac area in the middle of the hatched area is light industrial, hasn't developed in the 20 years of the initial plan. And as those in business can imagine, business likes to be, especially highway-oriented business, distribution, warehousing, things that are shipping, like to be close to intersections, don't like to have to drive through neighborhoods to get there. So the areas around the interchanges have developed in some ways, but these have been left out. And so the idea of a mixed-use zone in here that would allow for some business development, but also nearby residential, the idea of being, you could walk to work for workforce housing. Moving a little further south, again, the challenges of industrially zoned land that was not ever absorbed for industry lends itself to saying maybe it should be repurposed for residential. We all know we desperately need more houses in all those affordability categories. And if you have sufficient land at good, reasonable prices, you can make that happen. You heard Dana from Habitat up here before. Their model, working with companies or with builders like Jim Frank at Greenstone, is if we can find a way to create land at an affordable land price, we can put up a building that somebody in that 80% AMI might be able to afford a mortgage and therefore have an ownership in a house instead of be in a rental situation for their foreseeable future. And so not that that would be all of this, but when you've got sufficient land and can plan for it ahead of time, you have the ability to do that. Now here we need to work with our colleagues at the city because the city is the utility provider out here. And the challenge for them is in 2001, when we all did our first plans, this was light industrial. The city planned its capital facilities to serve light industrial into the future. As it's changed into residential, that changes how you need sewer and water capacity. It's happened in a fairly haphazard form over those 20 years, and now we have a chance to look at it more directly so that our utility provider can get ahead of that, and we can set aside this and say, yes, we can grow in this direction. This mixed-use zone allows us a chance to start putting in small businesses, markets, and other things that would go along. And then last and certainly not least, this is the southern edge of that. That's the Medical Lake intersection up on the corner. The West Terraces area, the golf course area, the very bottom of this slide, the small green rectangle is the county's new park that just opened this summer, which provides the first public park for anything on the West Plains. So it's finally bringing an amenity to the people that have moved out there for a long time. But this is also, if you recall, this is also exactly that line for stormwater flooding and stormwater management. So this area has to be considered within that constraint if it's going to develop further. And now that we know that, it can't be business as usual out here the way it was before. For example, the western 9 holes of the golf course, all shifting into multifamily housing with very little impervious surface in an area where there is no real drainage. And what you saw before and Dr. Pritchard talked about, the way the aquifer system works out here, it's called the basement rock, and it's where the water can't permeate anymore. And in this area, it is so close to the surface that there's no absorption. You can't absorb 50 feet, let alone 1,000 feet down to an aquifer. It's on the surface, so anytime it rains, it floods. So we have to know that. On the bigger scale, or the alternative 2 version, and we realize this is, these slides at the scale are hard to read. This slideshow deck, like all, are on our website. Anyone in the audience can download this and look at it in more detail. This is a study map of potential areas for expansion of the UGA if it is warranted. And this expansion matrix went through a year or more of criteria that started with some state criteria, like you must be adjacent to a UGA, you must be adjacent to water, sewer, have some amenities to try to minimize the cost of the capital cost, of doing that. Excuse me. So these study parcels were ultimately chosen to further that study through the EIS process. And that's what we've got today. That's what we're taking comments on. We've been receiving comments from DOT on transportation, from our own transportation planning folks in our staff. And so we're looking at now evaluating these from the very basic criteria of, as we call it, if you get over say 5 or 6 or 7 of these 8 criteria, you kind of make that first entrance into the arena for study. And now each of those criteria get more and more refined down to more and more detail. So it gives the county the best chance of looking at where is it most affordable to expand if we are going to expand. What you will see in the next 30 days or so is the next round of how these are starting to score, so to speak. And I hate to use score because it's it's not a win-lose, but there has to be an empirical evaluation of how these things are being put forward for development that we can defend under the growth management. You heard me say last time that there are parts of this, there are a lot of lands around the edge of the metro county that have outstanding opportunities for development, particularly the kind of mixed use development that we're advocating as being our model going forward. As much as 2,000 or 3,000 acres are really well suited for high quality development that could be a true mixed use, not just of uses, but of blended neighborhoods to provide a place for walk to work, affordability, as well as high-end homes. You can make that happen when you've got these places. The Growth Management Act, however, encourages us as strongly as possible to stay within our boundaries. And so that means that all of these places that could have wonderful master plan communities cannot be in the system at one time. We have to do this in 20-year growth horizons, and we have to do our best job as picking the ones that are the most affordable and sustainable for growth into the future. So that's what you're going to see as that cut comes through. We'll be looking to you to evaluate some of those and make suggestions and recommendations to us, and we will continue to refine that before we go to the board. So a couple final points. You saw in the chart way up above, our capacity is insufficient to meet the 0 to 80% AMI housing types. We have to include those housing types in our preferred alternative. We can't ignore them. We can't say, well, we're going to grow these master plan communities and they'll go wherever they go. We have to have a regulatory and a policy system that says they're supported in these areas. Increasing the density further than alternate one is now outside of that bookend, and that means if that were chosen, we would have to start over in one sense and restudy how those densities would happen. So that's why we picked one that was fairly high and then this other bookend. So we have to stay within those bookends. To do that, we need a combination. Some amount of infill development that fits those criteria. And it's really important to realize that you can fit the criteria on paper. You can do the math and say this zone allows for this construction. Doesn't mean the market's going to do what you ask it to do. The market's going to do what the market can sell. But if you plan for these areas, if you plan for this development in areas that have some of the amenities that you need, meaning transit, walkable services, and other things, the market could respond to that in some ways. So it gives a chance to do both of those things. So we're going to need some additional version of that. So our preferred alternative, we're going to look at this, analyze these parcels, as you said, highest suitability for future growth. We have to look at parcels in alternate 2 because we don't have enough capacity in alternate 1 to handle this. And so in that, how will it break out? And you can see here our narrative of a preferred alternative is a combination of the 2. Infill plus some growth that reflects the full range of 0 to 120 plus AMI, and also respects the historic development patterns of Spokane County, which have been single family development. With that, Mr. Chair, I am happy to yield the floor for questions and comments.
Questions from the commission first.
I have a question. And it's because number one, I'm getting old and I keep on understanding I have been blessed. I had a home. And I feel as life goes on and our kids, grandkids, and grandchildren come along, I hope they could have it somewhere or another, but the word that I see kicked around like a football is affordability and income. And I'm trying to understand better, and I need a better clarity of what are we going to achieve within the next 90 days that's going to help give us a good basic understanding of clarity to what we can do in planning, because it isn't strictly all our issue.
No.
And that's what I'm afraid of, that people, oh, it's you and the planning committee, you got it. No, it's not. But what is affordable anymore is a very interesting part. Because you can't approach it without knowing what it is, and I don't know where it's at.
Affordability has been used in so many contexts that it has no definition anymore. You can, I think in this week's Seattle Times, there was an article about a couple making, or household income of $175,000, and they couldn't afford to live in their condominium. Maybe a high-end excuse, but affordability has different definitions. What we've seen through the Commerce Housing tool is when you match architecture or housing typology to income. You have single-family detached homes at the 120. You've got townhomes and flats in the 100 to 80% range. And underneath that, you have apartments, because that is presumed to be the only thing that is affordable if you have those lower incomes. And even those must come with some level of subsidy, whether that's a rental subsidy or land subsidy or something else, or it doesn't work at all. One of the things we're trying to do to break that cycle is change the land patterns themselves, which is why you'll see, we've hinted at this, when you see the first cut of the development code, the new zoning code, in the neighborhood residential class, and the neighborhood residential class, excuse me, for newer lands, is going to propose no minimum lot sizes. Because it's it's perhaps inside baseball, we get too far deep in it. But a 20% of an acre lot, a 5,000, 6,000 square foot lot, 5 years ago, a builder could buy that lot for $50,000 or $60,000. In the last couple of years, that same lot is $200,000. So if you're starting out with a $200,000 piece of land, you're not going to build anything less than $500,000 or $600,000 or $700,000 on that for a house. But if you can shrink the size of that land down to a more affordable part and build 1,200 square foot homes, all of a sudden you have a chance to cluster those around where they might not all need frontage. They might not all need the expensive infrastructure. In that 80 to 120 or 80 to 100 band, you may have a product, builders are telling us they can put up a structure for $250,000. Not going to have marble countertops, but it's going to be a small 1,000 square foot structure. But it gives somebody a chance to own that, and as opposed to being consigned to a 2-bedroom apartment forever. So we think we've got a few tools that we as the government can bring to bear to offer to the market and say, can you do something with this? But the biggest thing we're doing differently, Clyde, is by changing the zoning, we're offering more flexibility. We're going to builders and architects and saying, what can you do? And we'll help you get there, as opposed to, nope, this is our zoning, you got to do it our way.
I guess I like that, because it isn't us, the government, that are causing the high prices. It's a conglomerate, but we all have to look at our own pot and decide which one you want to work on. And right now, I think we're doing a pretty good job, and the use of land that we have of reducing the land, the square footage.
Sure.
And the directions. I just want to say is that everybody out here has got an issue. And I'm going to take the personality out and say, deal with the issue that we have to deal with. And we're dealing with that by the land use. That's going to help the affordability of the home. That's all I want to have. And I say thank you for listening to me about that one. That's concerned.
Melissa.
Thank you. Well, a couple of things. I didn't see anything really for south of 57th around the Moran Prairie Transit Station. We've talked about that before. Kind of curious. I mean, I know it's definitely suburban style housing, large lots and all of that out there, but I think there's some small farms or maybe even larger farms that are getting ready to turn over. We're all getting older. And then in the city of Spokane, I mean, I have a 4,000, under 5,000 square foot lot. But there's lots of 2,500 square foot. I mean, people used to have that's what they could afford. That's what they built on, and they're perfectly nice houses, maybe getting past their prime. But I don't think that should be a deal breaker. I just don't. I mean, maybe people are, I don't want to live that close to my neighbors. But you know what? When you need a neighbor in a wildfire situation, do you really want to have to hike a mile to get some help? I think, yes, I think you're right. We need to look at the issue we can look at up here, and everybody else that's listening or participating, and I'm so grateful that you are, needs to look at what they can deal with, what they can add into the discussion of making this a sustainable situation. You know, that's what it's gonna take, is the community brain trust and the willingness to engage and maybe give up something that you thought you had to have. So I appreciate the things that you're pointing out to us, and the solutions that are being proposed. And I appreciate everybody that's here that is gonna contribute to, yeah, this is what I can deal with. This is, I can do that. And think about your kids, your grandkids, your great grandkids. Mortgage rates are up again. It's just, I don't think we are going back to the days of the mortgage that I have, which keeps me from selling my house.
Exactly.
3.25%. Looking at 6 point something, almost 7%. Makes a big.
Interest rates are the single biggest thing that's totally outside of our control for
Exactly.
We can do nothing about it.
Can't do anything about it.
Just quickly though, we just use a handful of example areas. The 57th Regal, 57th Moran Prairie, Glen Rose, that corner is a great candidate for this sort of infill development or open parcels. Historic family farm, sold part of it to the YMCA, a lot of it's left. Transit center right in the middle of it. So yes, that's an excellent example. There are others scattered through the metro core from the southeast part of the city, the valley, north, even on Trent, the Argonne Road corridor, all have attributes that can fit in here. We just didn't want to put up 25 maps.
Health maps. Big one.
Logan?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Something that bugs me, and I think it's really not something the county can do, but I think the city's got a lot of mileage out of the multifamily tax exemption. It's been some talk about needing to subsidize to have affordable. As best I can tell, Spokane County can't even adopt the multifamily tax exemption. RCW doesn't seem to allow it for our county.
Right.
I'm curious if we have tried to do any legislative advocacy to push for that. Obviously, we have UGA. So having, even if it was only allowed in the UGA, the MFTE, it would be, I think, helpful. And so I'm curious about if that's something that could be pushed for during the next legislative session, because that seems like the kind of incentive that could go a long way.
We have not, through talking with other county planning directors, we don't know of an initiative at the county level to push for that right now, but I will definitely keep our ear to the ground and I'll bring it forward when we meet. If Logan may know this, but the city of Spokane recently amended its MFTE ordinance to go citywide. And before it was in targeted areas around downtown, some of the targeted corridors, the East Central, West Central neighborhoods. It's now available for use anywhere in the city. So they've made an aggressive push to use that tool. And what that does is it allows for sometimes a 12 or 20-year exemption of some parts of property taxes if a share of the units in the project are quote unquote affordable to certain income bands. So it's tied to an income stream.
I would second that. The city has gotten a lot of leverage out of the multifamily tax exemption. However, the amount of affordable units that have actually been produced by it is kind of much smaller than the ones that are market rate. And a lot of developers seem like, okay, so I have fewer years of the tax exemption, but I make my money back on the units. So I think that that's important. If that's gonna mean, I think that was a mistake that we made. And sometimes we make that with a lot of these things, tax increment financing, local revitalization financing. It doesn't always hit the markets that we need to hit and results in another market failure. Just those, as you keep saying, you have to figure out the balance here. And there's only so much the county can do or the city, but those unintended consequences are coming back to haunt us.
Yeah, I agree, Melissa, and I think that is a concern. But when we have we don't have a tool at all, I'd rather have an imperfect tool than no tool. And it kind of feels like right now in the county, there's like no tool, basically. And so I think that I would just at least like to explore it. I'm looking closer at the legislation. It's RCW 84.14.010. And it says that counties are allowed to do it, but it defines county as a county with an unincorporated population of at least 170,000. Aren't we like right about there, Scott? So maybe we would become eligible for this. But I don't know if gotta wait for census counts or if it's the annual estimates are sufficient. But it looks like we would become eligible once we hit 170,000 unincorporated pop.
Logan, that'll take a little while. The unincorporated county isn't quite there yet. The city is between 250. The city of the valley is 120 maybe by now. The unincorporated county, I think our last count is about 80,000. So we're about halfway there.
Got it. Thank you. I mean, I guess what I would say is it's a pretty simple change for a legislator who's about this. You just change that number there to whatever Spokane County's number is, and you get where we want to be.
And just as a kind of a point, we should not read too much into that until this cycle of planning. So the 24, 25, 26 groups that are updating their comprehensive plan. That's the first time we've been using this tool for planning by income bands. It's never been used before. And that meant that counties very traditionally did not look at planning for those low income areas because historically it doesn't make sense to try to build housing units for that lower income on the very edges of cities where you don't have transit. One of the key things to affordability is the combination of housing and transportation. If you can build a unit in a downtown where you can either walk or take transit to something and don't have to own a car, that's a huge difference in being able to be in a place. That same unit out on the edge where you've got to own a car, it blows out your budget in an instant. So this is the first cycle that counties have been in that game, so to speak, of having to account for those income bands. So yeah, Logan, we're going to need new tools if the state is serious about it.
Thank you. At the conclusion of your presentation, the last slide says questions. And at this point in time, the chair will be happy to entertain people who have questions based on your testimony. I saw Terry have her hand up here. I don't want to confuse that with the people who have properly filled out a card and want to speak for 2 minutes. I get that.
Online
But we don't want to suppress any questions from Scott Chesney in his presentation.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Just a clarifying issue too. When we, in respect for everybody's time, what we want to do with questions is take them like we get questions and comments routinely. We will record them, we will take notes, and we will discuss them among staff, and then we will produce a response. We wouldn't necessarily be responsive on the fly tonight.
Okay. Terry, did you have a question?
Actually, it's more of a comment, to what we just witnessed.
You come down here, please.
Yeah, people won't be able to hear.
I don't want to lose control of the protocols here. If it's a quick question, that's fine, but
And then
Yeah.
there's
Terry
some-
Vaughan, West Plains resident. So
Yes.
one of the things, Scott, that you're talking about is the issue with the, specifically the Spokane Rathdrum Prairie Aquifer, right? One of the things that we could look into is the 1954 Watershed Protection and Flood Act, Public Law 83566, USDA, NCRS, apply with Idaho. That would force us to get into a law, a system where we can actually protect our waters. On that side, again, we have a very specific aquifer system on the West Plains, but all water will connect at some point, right? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
thanks, Terry.
Would you
And then
say
there's someone
Who's
on.
on? Who's on?
Yeah, there's someone online.
Who is it?
Amanda Parrish from the Land Council.
Well, okay, let's-
She's had it since you asked for questions. She's had her
Okay.
hand up for,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Question, please, Amanda.
Mr. Chairman, one quick reminder, we're trying to stick to a 2-minute interval for speakers.
I have timer here.
This is actually a public comment. I wasn't sure how I could get in line for public comment since I'm not there in person, so I can wait.
That would be much appreciated. We have,
So I'll lower my hand and I'll raise it again when you've called for comment.
Thank you very much. Stay with us, please. You have a question?
I do have a question.
Please.
Yeah, Scott. You showed up there 600 acres for alternative two. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll be coming up as a speaker in a moment. I'm Terry Neal. I live on 31st Avenue.
Here.
I do.
Okay,
Okay.
go ahead.
But I'll wait on that. I noticed the 600 acres, Scott, in of the alternative two of what's being considered. And just a few months ago, I had a number passed to me by the engineer we hired. And it was 1,200 acres. So there's been some paring down of what would be considered more practical or would fit what you're trying to do.
Sure, I'll clarify that. The initial round of interested parcels that were not automatically, but basically eligible was almost 3,000 acres. A little over 2,800, I believe. If we were to look only at alternative two, meaning do not change our regulations, only expand land to accommodate our growth, we calculated you'd need about 1,300 acres. If you start using the infill part of that, it reduces the likely use of external or UGA land down to about 600. So that's how the number progressed.
Thank you.
We'll reserve your time for the, you have a 2-minute presentation. Okay, thank you. Gotcha. I'd like to see Sean Elston. Is Sean here?
Yes, I am.
Sean? No particular order, but here's your card. And
There you go.
thank you for being here and thanks for your patience and waiting.
All right, no problem. Good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for your time.
Yep.
My name is Sean Elson. I just wanted to talk briefly, myself and the adjacent landowner on 5 Mile. Have 2 parcels that together are about 80 acres. And that would amount to about 300, housing lots potentially if developed. So could add significantly. Our parcels satisfy 7 out of the 8 criteria as established. But in addition to that, Woodridge on Indian Trail and coming up the backside of 5 Mile are directly adjacent to our property line. So if our properties were to be included in this, it would be pretty meaningful from a connectivity standpoint for transportation. Right now, those communities are one way in, one way out. And if there was a connection on top of 5 Mile, it would be pretty important if there for fire response, EMS, if there was a wildfire, anything of that nature would allow people to get in and out a second way. And they're currently, that's getting completely built out right now by Lennar. So I just wanted to mention the importance of connectivity and our properties and what they could bring. And again, I've talked to you guys before, but the fact that farming is no longer viable on top of 5 Mile. You can't get farm equipment up there, and you can't spray, whether for weeds or anything else in vicinities of schools and other housing. So we need to have some ability to do something with our land. But thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sean.
I made it under the 2-minute window. So.
You did.
Yeah, 5 minutes, 5 seconds to spare. Greg, are you here? Greg Big? Come on down. Our highway department guy. US Department.
Yeah. Oh, good evening, commissioners, members of the commission. Greg Fig, Washington State DOT. We have been working with Scott's, staff, and I would just offer a copy of our comments. They're the ones that we submitted earlier, but just to point out one thing, we are concerned about our ability to serve some of the UGA swaps as such. They occur in numerous areas adjacent to Highway 195, Highway 2, out on 290, and that's probably one of our major concerns is our ability to serve those things that are being looked at. We did comment on that, so I don't want to belabor our comments, but we did comment along with other agencies. So, but thank you for the ability to come down and comment and listen to the other input.
Great, thanks for being here. Teresa Scrupps, please. Welcome. Thanks for bearing with us.
All good.
You have the floor.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Teresa Scrupps. I'm here for myself and my husband, Tom. I'm here today giving comments in support to our attorney's letter to Mr. Chesney. We are in full support to our property that is on the north end of Cheney to be part of the urban growth area. The city of Cheney has indicated they support this change, and their city services are already in place along the southern property line. We've also seen comments from Mr. Chesney during the October 2025 presentation that he supports said property being included as part of a UGA swap around Cheney. We also have had preliminary discussions with the developer and have interest in developing the property zoning changes allowed, and have had many discussions with said developer. Thank you for your time this evening and all of that.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Terry, you want to step back up here and share your wisdom with us? Thank you.
And Terry Neal, as I said, we live up on 31st and Glen Rose. Neighbors with Rick. He has 7 acres of wraps around us. We've got 2 acres. A neighbor over here has got 5. Behind us to the south is George Paris's 127 lots, and he's got 5 acres there that's in the urban reserve that he's going to want to have expanded into the UGA that'll help with access and things for ingress and egress. We've been in support of houses, rooftops going up out there since the beginning. I've been participating in meetings for the last 5 years, and we've had letters go into the commission and things on time, and so we're in there, and our position has been known. And I had, as a way of just practical, I had given just the big one, just show them the big one. They could just sort of see what's happening. And in line with the talks tonight, what we're proposing out there is more medium housing prices, not median plus. So in reference, St. George Paris's homes are 700,000 starting now. These are all 500,000 plus or minus, a developer that will do those, so it kind of fits in with that. So smaller lots, you know, that helps with getting that price down. So we're hopeful. We think this fits well with what the developer Paris and his partners are doing, and then it flows onto, and it has good access and egress. It does not have, but we're close to water and sewer, so we can access that.
What are the square footages that you're looking at?
Oh, boy.
5,000, 6,000.
No, square footage of lots,
Lots.
right? Yeah, and the houses, yeah. Mhm. Yeah, you can see those there. It's showing 9 lots on my parcel, and we're really only gonna do 6 or 7.
It's the frontage.
Pardon me? Frontage is Glen Rose, 31st.
No,
and
footage, 50 to 60 feet.
Yes,
Oh, gotcha.
okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Can I add a comment? Real quick.
Oh, Rick, yeah.
Yeah. Actually, Terry said utilities are nearby with what George Paris is building right now. If his parcel is brought into the growth expansion, he would just bring his sewer and water right down, so we would have utilities based off his first phase that would come through his second phase that's in for application. So they're all there, and it would be all infilled with cul-de-sacs for accesses.
Thank you.
And can I ask what the transportation situation is? Because that's kind of a congested little area.
Well, the DOT allowed George to expand on his 127 lots, and they said that they could handle the increased traffic from that with turnouts and things, so.
Did I understand that you said they're gonna back out onto Glen Rose to get out of those 50-foot lots?
No,
No, there's new roads.
I think it's at the cul-de-sac.
Yes, yeah, it comes in, yeah.
Back to school.
No,
There's a map upside down.
you can't walk or ride a bike on Glen Rose, so it's,
That's what I was trying to get at.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, I agree.
That's why he gave us the plan.
I wanted you to see what.
All right, man. Thank you very much. Brian Ellsworth? That's it, this is Brian?
Brian.
Got that, thank you. Correct. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. And may I hand this up? It's just for my good copy or your copy. Apparently I left on my desk, so this was just a scratch copy, but Brian Ellsworth.
Okay, great.
Address is 5504 East 21st Avenue. There's the corner of 21st and Glen Rose. And you had made a comment some time ago about this. You mentioned, I'm sorry about your name, Whitstrup.
Yes.
You mentioned older farms and the not Peon, but the area up on the South Hill, Moran. My neighbor and I they had a pig farm and we had a goat farm. They're 100 years old and the property is much the same as it was. We're both ready to do something. We've had it in our family since early 60s. So I'm just going to read this because Courtney with Winston Cachet is going to address this with for my neighbor's property, but we've been pursuing this for a long time. Between us, we have 82 acres that extend from 17th and Carnahan to 25th and Glen Rose. All is zoned urban reserve for the last 21 years. We thought it would be a shoo-in for the expansion of the UGA now, as it meets all the criteria. It has sewer on 2 sides, 3 water districts serve the surrounding area. It has roughly 5 roads that dead end on the parcels. I have 2 parcels I purchased and put road easements through to 25th that go up to Broadmoor. So we have lots of ingress and egress. We border the UGA, not a half mile from it. We have, the water is there, the sewer is there, it's all ready. And I've been frustrated because it seems futile. We've had private meetings, we've had public meetings, we've provided many letters to address since the process started. We're told that this is preliminary and no means not a final decision, but we're not part of the EIS map. We're not included in either of my property. I have one up at with Scott Aitchison up at Bigelow and Argonne. We have 30 acres up there as well. But it's very frustrating. You know, we've waited for 21 years for some change from urban reserve. Urban reserve limits us to 1 acre out of 5. And something has to be done with either zoning one way or the other. But thank you. May I leave this as well? Or is this not a written comment?
Of course, no problem.
We accept all
Yes.
comments. Jackie did the right thing by her.
All right.
Yeah, right.
Thank you.
Courtney, we haven't forgotten about you, but I was saving your
Mr. Chair,
your comment.
well, the next speaker is coming up. If I could just, I want to remind our audiences and everyone else that the rules for land development and growth 20 years ago or 25 years ago, 2001, when these plans were done, have changed dramatically. The Growth Management Act is not what it was then, and that's why we're at these constraints now. The Growth Management Act is directing us to absorb as much of this growth as possible. So from the perspective of anybody else, the unfair part of this is the goalposts have been moved by the legislature over the years, and it's made it harder and harder to develop on the edges of communities.
Thank you. I'd like to have Eric come up and share his comments, then we'll proceed with Courtney Whitten, who has a number of clients, I think, that need to be represented, and that'd be fine and good. Go ahead, Eric.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to read comments that I sent as a follow-up on Friday to WashDOT's comments where they expressed concerns regarding development on our property. We recognize and appreciate WashDOT's concerns regarding further development in the US 195 corridor. I represent Cougar Cliffs in Latah Valley, 165 acres of planned mixed-use dense car light development. That would address we have worked hard to propose a development that would address many of the transportation shortfalls Latah Valley has faced over the last 30 years. As stated in previous public comments, one of our goals in developing Cougar Cliffs is to help fast track the projects in the Spokane Regional Transportation Council's I-90 US 195 study, particularly project number 25, the Meadow Lane to Hatch Road connection, which is projected to go right through our property. Additionally, we have been adamant from the start that we hope to take a substantial amount of local traffic off of US 195 by providing shops and services badly needed by the greater neighborhood, all in a dense, walkable car light environment. We are eager to work with WashDOT, Spokane County, and the city of Spokane to address any conditional traffic mitigation measures as they relate to Cougar Cliffs. We look forward to seeing any transportation modeling that occurs as a part of the study process. Thank you.
Thank you. Courtney? I have, I think, 5 slips here.
Yeah.
How would you like to handle this?
Well, I was gonna ask
Your
you.
time. You want to just go ahead and start and we'll give you 10 minutes, or do you want to we'll do two, I mean, how do you?
Yeah, I have about 7, I have 7 kind of separate comments that Elizabeth Telson submitted, 7 written comments, 5 clients, but there's 2 with 2 issues that they want. So.
I'll let you organize your thoughts.
And could I have about 15 minutes, maybe?
Well, we could.
Because that's 2, I have 7 comments.
You have my blessing, whatever you want to do.
Some will be shorter.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah,
So,
I
I'll try
don't
and-
segment this, might get too confusing.
Mr. Chairman, the only qualification I would offer is if she has submitted written comments, we already have them for the record. So are you offering something different or just the same comments?
Well, it is the same, but been here to
That would appear to be.
provide those comments to the commissioners. So a brief summary of them.
Madam Chairman,
So-
Yes,
since we allowed them to have 2 minutes on each one, I feel we should follow that same criteria.
okay.
No deviation from our 2 minute on each one.
So 14 minutes.
And we can just do two. That's fine with me, and then
No,
you
no.
can,
Okay.
Which would, I don't know how you want to organize this. I'll leave it to your.
well,
good
that's
judgment.
fine.
You
that's
tell
fine.
us. I'm gonna talk about this and then we'll start the clock.
I will do that.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
I
Thank
will
you
do
for
that.
being here, by the way.
Oh, you're welcome, and I am, mostly here filling in for my colleague Elizabeth Tellison, who did submit
Right.
these
you know
comments to
this.
the commission. She is out of town today. So I guess I'll start with,
By the way, excuse me before I start, she sent a letter
she did send her own
and
personal.
I read all of that. Yeah,
Right.
so I get it. So.
Yes, okay. So I will start with our client Angelo Lawrence Family LLC. They own 9 parcels that are neighboring Mr. Ellsworth's property. And those 9 parcels are about 53 acres that are currently zoned urban reserve. They are 9 contiguous parcels. They begin with 2 parcels that begin 9080 and 9081 that are directly adjacent to the new roundabout on Carnahan that turns into Glen Rose. That roundabout is about where the city water and sewer also stubs. So they have direct access to utilities. There is excellent transportation. The road is right there. Recent improvements. It's also uniquely situated in between the Alcott JPA and Valley JPA. So the Alcott JPA is abutting, and then there's these 9 parcels kind of span and then almost reach the Valley JPA. So in a way, it's infill between these 2 areas. And for that reason, it's also uniquely situated to receive development and growth. And these parcels also satisfy, again, all of the county's criteria that they have set forward. They abut the current UGA. Again, they have utility access easily because it's sitting right there, already stuck to the property line. There's no wetlands or critical areas, which also, again, there are some parcels that have been included within this alternative that do have those critical areas. These parcels do not have that. And the owners have continued to express their interest as well. Okay, thank you.
Next.
So I guess I'll keep in the Glen Rose theme. I'm also here to submit 2 comments for TZL Investments, which is Mr. Paris' company. So one of the issues that he is having is that there are 2 parcels that are basically part of his Rosedale subdivision and have been included in plat that are not included within the UGA. And we are not sure why this is. It does not make much sense to us, particularly because one of those parcels is going to be dedicated to the city for an extension of a right of way. And we've heard quite a bit also from a neighboring property owner about how this development will bring connectivity to other potential future developments. So some of the parcels for the Rosedale development are in the UGA, and for whatever reason, 2 of them have been left out. So we are here to ask that the commission bring those parcels in so that this development can be fully developed. I will.
That's into that one.
That is the end of that one. It's short and sweet.
That was good.
Thank you. This is another TDL Investments, George Paris parcel. that is actually out in the valley, and again, asking to be brought within the UGA. The parcel is about 30 acres and it is west of Barker Road. Also satisfying all of the criteria. It's adjacent to the Valley UGA already, both to the west and south. The sewer main passes through the right of way and is stepped to the parcel's northern boundary. Both near Barker Road and Arterial and Chapman Road, which is a collector. And then it will also aid in establishing connectivity for the parcels that are both to the east and west, which to the east is Barker Road. Also zoned urban reserve and within the Valley UGA study. This parcel has previously been considered to be included within the UGA boundaries, and again, I'm not sure why it has not been, but Mr. Paris does request that that parcel make it in for the preferred alternative. That is the end of that one. So I will then turn to, you also already heard from my client, Terry Scrubs. She and her husband own 2 parcels that are on the north side of Cheney. Together, they're about 80 acres, and they are just north of Betts Road by Cheney Middle School. So the location is somewhat ideal for development, and we've heard a lot about neighborhood development, mixed-use development. 80 acres would give a developer a significant opportunity to develop something creative. And I mean, there's unlimited options. There's a middle school just down the road, there's Safeway, there's a hotel. So it would be an interesting opportunity and a very desirable location for some of that neighborhood focus to occur, that, you know, doesn't suffer from some of the issues that we see when we're developing, you know, off of 90 on the West Plains, where we're dealing with traffic that backs up into Thorpe and all of the issues that come with that. So again, West Plains, 80 acres, that is a very, there's already a developer that is interested and has already started drafting some plats. And if this can work out, and they are also requesting that this parcel, the 2 parcels that, again, all complying with the county's criteria, be included within the UGA report.
Mr. Chairman, quick point of clarification.
Of course.
We're aware of these parcels as well. There's a secondary challenge on this project or this proposal in that all but 10 of the acres involved are currently zoned large tract agriculture. And LTA is resource land that is highly protected by the Growth Management Act. It's very difficult to de-designate that for the fairly obvious reason that once farmland is gone, you never get it back. And so this would have an additional hurdle regardless of any decision for future development.
Thank you. Sorry.
That's okay. Okay.
CPM development?
I'm just checking my tabs here to make sure, not everyone else.
You have the floor.
Okay, so a CPM is here kind of on 2 discrete issues. The first is that there is 1 parcel that they have recently purchased that is 22 acres. It sits to the northwest of the intersection of Highway 395 and Highway 2. It is also adjacent to its existing mining site that is on Perry Street and operated by its affiliate. And previous mapping proposed that this parcel was to be included within the UGA boundary. Our office has informed the county that this parcel will be used for mining. CPM fully intends to incorporate this into its very large existing mining site and to continue to do that for the foreseeable future. So we have, Ms. Tellison has requested about 6 separate times that it be removed. It has not been removed. And it gives a false sense to the county that this is going to be available for urban development when it is not going to. So the CPM is requesting that it actually be removed from the border, which would actually open up opportunity for other land to be included in.
Mr. Chairman, again, we regret that there have been so many map works that have gone on as this evolved. We have been in receipt of this request for some time. We have assured Ms. Tellison that we will take this out of UGA consideration, so we're in agreement with their client. The mapping was simply not kept up to date, but there's no issue in our case of trying to leave it there. We would agree completely to move it back into a mineral lands category.
Would you like to make some closing remarks as in your profession? You made 6, 7 presentations. Is there anything else you want to add?
Well, CPM does have one more issue. They are also asking, there are kind of three mining sites that they would like to be designated as mineral resource lands of long-term commercial significance. So recognizing that part of the job of this review is finding those sites, recognizing the importance of the natural resources, and ensuring that they are not encroached upon by other development. They have asked for that. One of those is what they call the Nelson Pit. It's kind of north of Farwell, east of Market. And then the JMAC pit, which is actually bordering the Idaho state line. That is part of a fairly significant region. It's border state lines. And then also those 2 parcels that I just discussed that will be part of the Perry mine. So that is their other request.
I have a question.
Yes.
Are they the owners of the one that was approved by Aaron Heights here in the last year or two? Was that the same firm?
Don't know.
I do not know the answer to that either.
Don't know, but
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Is anyone online that would like to speak?
3 people.
3 people. Let's hear it.
So the first one would be Amanda.
Amanda, yes, we had her wait.
Yes.
Thank you, Amanda. Amanda,
Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity to provide public comment today. My name is Amanda Parrish, and I serve as the Executive Director of the Lands Council, a Spokane-based environmental nonprofit that has worked to preserve and revitalize the inland Northwest forests, water, and wildlife for more than 40 years. I'm also a founding member of the Spokane Environmental Policy Coalition, and while many of these issues I raised today are consistent with the coalition's work, these comments reflect the Lands Council's position and my own perspective as a Spokane County resident. The Growth Management Act asks us to plan not only for growth, but for responsible growth. I believe the environmental analysis clearly shows alternative 1, the infill growth alternative, as the most responsible path forward. Of the 3 alternatives, alternative 1 consistently results in fewer environmental impacts while accommodating projected population growth through more efficient land use. I also want to highlight one significant concern with alternative 2. Figure 2-21 of the DEIS document shows proposed UGA expansion adjacent to the Little Spokane River and Deadman Creek. Figure 3-29 shows these same areas overlap with channel migration zones, which are dynamic floodplain systems that are among the least appropriate places for new urban development. Figure 3-198 also documents concerns from the county transportation staff, including unresolved access issues, needed public right-of-way improvements, and uncertainty about how parcels across Deadman Creek could even connect to the transportation network. Finally, figure 3-157 identifies high-quality stream reaches along the Little Spokane River and Deadman Creek that overlap with the proposed UGA expansion of alternative 2. This is especially concerning given the tremendous work of our local tribes who have led salmon restoration efforts throughout the Spokane River Basin. The Little Spokane River's cold, clean water provides critical refuge habitat for salmon, making it one of our region's most valuable aquatic resources. I respectfully encourage the Plan Commission to recommend alternative one or a hybrid that rejects any of the urban growth area alterations proposed under alternative two that would extend development into the floodplains, channel migration zones, and high-quality stream corridors of the Little Spokane River, Deadman Creek, and other similarly sensitive watersheds. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Amanda.
David Toyer would be the next person. David Toyer, but he has disconnected. So he disconnected. The next one would be Toya Fitzgerald.
Oh,
now he's raised his hand again. And is back. Okay.
Get him back up there.
Sounds good. All right.
David.
I'm sorry about that. I guess I was lowering my hand prematurely. Expectation, I was being unmuted. So sorry about that.
We're here for you, David.
Appreciate it. Thank you. David Toyer with Toyer Strategic Advisors. We're a land use and economic development planning firm that is working with the James and Billy Etter estate at 17500 East Wellesley. There in Spokane. Address. It's sort of up in the northeast part of the valley, UGA, and it is within one of the areas indicated in pink there to be studied for potential UGA expansions. Just wanted to point out that we did provide a letter on July 9th supporting alternative 2. In the combination of rezoning properties as well as considering select UGA expansion locations. I'm not going to go into every single point that the letter reviews, but the letter does outline a number of the items as far as the criteria we comply with, as well as provide associated information to substantiate that. We have been providing a number of letters consistently since last year outlining this site's proximity to utilities. It's just down the street from appropriate schools that have capacity. There are a number of reasons that make this an ideal location for an urban growth area expansion. And so we just would encourage the commission, as it moves forward and selects a preferred alternative, that it engage in a robust discussion, including discussing the potential to add this property to the urban growth boundary. Thank you so much for your time this evening. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, David. Who's next?
Toya Fitzgerald.
Toya.
Yes.
Toya, you have the floor. Toya?
Hello, can you hear me?
We can, thank you.
Okay, excellent. I was having some problems with my computer here. Good evening. Thank you all so much just for what you're doing. This is a Herculean task. And thank you for allowing me to speak. So as you know, my name's Toya Fitzgerald. I've attended a few meetings here the past year. I represent my brother, Kenton Leonard, and the W&M LLC, and we own about 526 acres out on North Indian Trail Road and Rudder Parkway. And we submitted our letter of interest to be included in the UGA, April 5th, 2024. I guess I just want to say I hear I'm frustrated along with a few others, just that there is such limitations on what can be included. And I know none of you have control over that. I understand that it has to do with the Growth Management Act. And I do feel a little bit, not a little bit, a lot frustrated that the goalposts have been moved. Like others, we've been in the urban reserve for years upon years, paying property taxes for what feels like not being able to do anything with our land. It's a beautiful piece of property. It's all sand. So, a lot of Spokane is that basalt rock. And so it's quite easily developed. And I hear, the frustration over housing prices. And I mean, the main reason housing prices are as high as they are is because of supply and demand. And I would just encourage the planning commission and the county to relook at, I've spoken before about this, but just look at again, maybe redoing the urban reserve, since a lot of us may not be adopted. I'm still hoping to be adopted in the UGA, but if we aren't, the urban reserve really does need kind of revamping. So I would just like to encourage that, especially for those who are not in any sort of critical area. So anyway, I just thank you for letting me talk and have a great evening. And thank you for all you're doing.
Thank you very much, Toya. Anyone else online?
No.
I don't think we've missed anybody else in the audience.
I missed one client.
Mr. Chair, while the speaker's coming up, I was perhaps unprofessional in suggesting that the goalposts have moved in land planning. The legislature is a group of our elected representatives and their basic public policy on a majority vote. And so I didn't mean to be pejorative about that. But the fact remains, the Growth Management Act has continually enforced or emphasized infill development. And it has changed the land planning system for places like Spokane, metropolitan Spokane.
Nevertheless, we appreciate your perspective and thanks for that clarification. Go right ahead.
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry, I forgot that. So this comment is regarding many parcels that are owned by TBC Ranch LLC, which is owned by Mr. Edmond. And
Who?
Edmond.
Okay. Gotcha.
And this is actually a development that has been in the works since 2001, and is a master plan development that has been approved by both the city of Cheney and the county previously. And so Mr. Edmond was very surprised to see that this development was not included within the UGA boundary. So to explain a little further, there are 3 phases of the planned development. Not all of them were included. And the PUD for the development was approved by the city in 2009. Mr. Edmond has completed a significant amount of wetland study, worked with the city and the county significantly to try and come up with a way that the development can be clustered to protect any wetlands in critical areas. He has obtained a traffic impact fee analysis in 2019, and he also was responsible for paying for a lift station that serves the existing Terra Vista development. That lift station was constructed in anticipation of the entire development being built, and was a significant expense that he expended. So it is certainly his position that if the development is not included within the UGA, that will be a partial taking. Ben has estimated that the market value caused by that designation will be about $15 million at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have someone online now.
Pardon me?
We have someone online now.
Let's hear from.
Okay. So Annette Clark.
Annette Clark. Ms. Clark, you have the floor. Hello? Is she unmuted?
I'm asking her to.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, took me a minute to unmute. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Annette Clark. I'm a member of the Angelo Luris Family LLC. My 3 sisters and I, who make up this family LLC, grew up in Spokane. I want to begin by emphasizing that my family, along with Mr. Brian Ellsworth, who owns parcels adjacent to ours and who spoke a few minutes ago, have continuously and consistently expressed our interest in having our properties included in the UGA expansion. Ms. Witten also spoke on our behalf this evening, so I'm going to abbreviate my comments so they're not too repetitive. But I do want to note that the county has repeatedly emphasized placemaking and neighborhood development in this process. In fact, Mr. Chesney referenced placemaking tonight. And including our family's 53 acres plus Mr. Ellsworth's adjoining 30 acres, so a total of more than 80 acres, in the UGA would open up opportunities for making that type of neighborhood development a reality. And they already went through the fact that all of our parcels meet all 7 of the criteria for inclusion in the UGA. They're adjacent to the Alcott Joint Planning Area boundary. They're sandwiched between that and the Valley UGA. So they make it a really logical location for inclusion. The parcels also connect to Carnahan and Glenrose at the new roundabout. And the parcels further to the east connect to the city of Spokane Valley roads. So we would respectfully request that the Luris Family LLC parcels and the Ellsworth parcels be included in the UGA expansion. I also want to say that I appreciate Mr. Chesney's acknowledgement of the unfairness of the state having moved the goalposts. I think you had it right the first time, Mr. Chesney. But it's frankly small consolation to those of us who are locked into a zoning category of urban reserve that no longer seems to make any sense. And I want to say that I think we and many others have a reliance interest that is not being recognized or acknowledged by this process. In conclusion, we respectfully ask that Mr. Chesney and his staff please carefully review our many prior submittals. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other hands raised?
No.
Mr. Chesney.
One follow-up comment regarding the Cheney, the last parcels on Cheney. We met with Cheney this morning. They have had a massive turnover of elected and professional staff over the last 3 years. But the previous actions of the city were submitted to the county as late as March of 2026. And they show that the city of Cheney can meet its allocated growth within its boundaries. That statement from the city of Cheney virtually ruled out any expansion of UGA because the point is they said they can meet their requirements. So we've met with them this morning. They disagree with their previous findings and we've given them a chance to rework that. But the challenge is if to rework it, there may be downstream implications for other areas if they change, if they're not comfortable with the allocations affect all of the other jurisdictions in the county. And it's far too late in the process to reshuffle the entire deck for all of the jurisdictions to accommodate this. So in this case, I did want to be clear. We asked Cheney to early on identify their needs and particularly what we call pipeline units that were previously platted or permitted that would be accounted and not worked against them. Their response to us gave us no indication that they had any need for expansion or could do anything other than accommodate their growth within their boundaries. And so that's how we proceeded for the last 2 years. Like I said, the city has now wants to revisit that. We have opened the door to that, but it's going to be a big challenge because it has ripple effects for all of the other communities. And that is, in a sense, the top line of allocations from OFM and from Commerce for the county as a whole are our responsibility, the county's responsibility. How they are allocated to the communities is all up to us, but the top line can't change. So if Cheney or anybody else wants to go from 2,000 units to 2,600 units, well, those 600 units have to come from somewhere else. And they have to stay in those income bands. So it's very late in the game to change that under the current rules that we're operating with. But I did want to be clear and not to challenge the position of the Cheney, but Cheney told us in essentially mathematical terms, they could meet their requirement within their boundaries, which took them out of any consideration for UGA modification.
Okay. Logan, are you there?
I'm indeed.
Just want to make sure we may need you for some votes later on.
Yeah, I'll make a comment real quick if I could. Oh no, I'll just save it. I'll save it.
Go.
I hear people's frustration about changing rules, but like the nature of the legislature is that they pass new laws every year. Like that's what we expect legislatures to do. And so to expect that the rules will be the same 20 years from now is kind of silly. Things are going to change. The play of field is going to change. I know that's not fair in a game, but in life, in legislating, the field is going to change. And in 20 years, I expect the landscape to look differently than it does today. Seems pretty straightforward.
Thank you, Logan. Pete, you have anything to add?
I like what Logan just said. We are in this pickle opportunity, whatever you want to call it, because we put ourselves there. We grew up as a country. We went from farming and agricultural and immigrants to small communities to larger communities, and race got involved, and we passed the Jim Crow laws, and then we got to urban sprawl, and we found we couldn't figure out how to pay for stuff. So in 2021, we passed a UGA, and a plan that is not correctly affected, was led by Clyde and was very wise. And people who passed the law we got to deal with, this is 20 years later, are making changes to eliminate that process of sprawl. But what are we going to do in 20 years? And my concern is that we don't give away our future in what we give away and what we do to comply with the law today. Our future is in our perimeter. And if we don't protect our perimeter, where are we going to grow, Sprague? So anyway, I just share the comments. I'd like us to focus on where we're going to be 20 years from now. And I mean, look at these maps, and I've mentioned this before. We got 10 and 20 acre places, parcels occupying an enormous amount of our perimeter. And we can't subdivide that. And I'm guilty of it. I've split up into 10 acre parcels, and I know the people that bought lots from me, they would kill me, or they would never allow it. So we've got to protect our future. And it's going to be different. It won't be what we expect, but we need to protect it.
Melissa, I see your brain cells roaring there.
It's true. I concur with Mr. Camporielli and Pete. We have to be, none of our laws or our comprehensive plans or development regulations or anything, it's not static. I mean, we have to be responsive to what the situation is now. And I think our children would thank us for being responsive to the current situation instead of trying to go, oh no, that's the way we did it in the 60s. That's the way it's got to stay. Because that's not going to cut it. I mean, we have a lot of history to show. Oh, that was bad. We didn't do that right. And sure, I mean, the crystal ball we have is not entirely clear. And all we can do is keep responding. We can try to make things consistent, reliable, and all of that. But we still have to respond to what the current situation is. It's dynamic, it's not static. And I think that that's really important for us as commissioners to keep in mind, and the public. I know that, I mean, I had expectations too of where I'd be at when I retired, but did it all come true? No, there was a pandemic. So and all you can do is try to adjust and move forward, keep moving forward. And I think that that is what the planning department and the commissioners are trying to do, respond and react, and not major. I mean, there's a lot of really good discussion going on here tonight. So I appreciate that. And we just have to keep moving forward. Thank you for all your work.
I second that. Very nice, nicely said. All of you, thank you for being here. Thanks for serious input. Thank you, staff. Everybody. Thanks for those who sat with us through the whole thing and those online. The next order of business, we'll keep the hearings really open, is that correct? Okay, so let the record reflect that. And the next order of business is approval of the adoption of the minutes of June the 25th, 2026. Has everyone read them? Aside from the fact that Pete's name is misspelled in vertical, the lines at the back there, eighth grader, but I think we can all get over that.
So moved.
Okay, second. All those in favor of adopting those minutes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, did you
Aye.
say aye?
Aye.
All those opposed by saying no, those minutes are hereby adopted. Thank you. Staff report. Make it a long one, Scott.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah,
let me tell you where we're going for the next 5 years.
Thank you.
No staff report tonight. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your patience. And I think we heard a lot of good comments. This is difficult because as we said earlier today and what we said last time, there are so many of these lands that could be beautiful little villages, 500 acres on the north side. You can make a village out of that. These properties have this potential to do that, but we simply have to work within our limits. And one of the things that we have initiated that we hope will stand the test of time is rather than look at the urban growth area as a place where we're going to build a residential subdivision of low density homes at 4.5 units an acre, that we're trying to build real neighborhoods that have not just connectivity, but have places within them to go to work, to have coffee, to small shops, all of which create that sense of place in somewhere other than just a suburban edge of a city. And we think that that is very much within the spirit of the Growth Management Act, but still provides that bit of new land available to do that while we are still looking at infill development. In a next version of a world, if we could really think of regional planning as opposed to county planning, city of the valley, and other things, then we could look at a continuum of residential development from high-rise downtowns to low-density rural development out in the periphery, and not have to each allocate to individual components to do that where it doesn't always make sense. So there are some improvements that could still come in the Growth Management Act. But we think what we've had before you and with your guidance, we think we're putting together something that will be compliant and also will be creative. And with that, I'm done, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much for all your help and your great staff. Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved by Pete. Second by Melissa. All those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. We hereby adjourn. Thank you very much for everyone's time.
Thanks, y'all. Have a good rest of your evening.
Day 7.
You as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
Administration is a normal part of being in America, and that